correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPG, the podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience.
Welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. I'm here with my friend Steve.
Good evening.
And we have a very important guest. But before we get to our very important guest, we're going to talk about our podcast for the week, which is the Story Told podcast.
Yes, it is. The Story Told is another podcast here on the D20 Radio Network. It is, in many ways, kind of similar to this one. Logan, Griffin, and I believe their third host name is Kim.
We always fumble the third host name.
Yes, I do. But it's kind of an RPG variety show. They talk about play tips, techniques, GM tips, techniques, a variety of different game systems, largely independent, more narrative-focused games, I would say, as a rule. They're also doing an actual play of Promethean, and I believe they're working on one in City of Mists as well. So if any or all of that interests you, check them out. You can just search The Story Told on any of your podcatchers, or there'll be a link in the show notes for them. So, yeah, check that out, or just go to d20radio.com and you'll find them and a whole bunch of other cool podcasts and blog articles and fun stuff.
Very, very awesome. Well, we have a guest, so I'm going to leave it up to you to introduce our guest so I don't fumble my words.
Well, at this point, I may have to make some sort of silly sounder to put in post, because this is a momentous occasion, Steve.
Yes.
Our guest has achieved honorary Stevedom, as this is their third appearance on the podcast. So, Cliff, a.k.a. Steve Lambert, is from Fragging Unicorn Games. He's been here before to talk Shadowrun and Fallen Love's Not in Line, but he has a project that is out now on Kickstarter, and he's come to talk with us about it tonight. So, welcome to the show, Cliff.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's great to be here. Always appreciate being on the Me and Steve Talk RPGs podcast.
Well, we always appreciate having you on.
Mm-hmm. So, where do you want to start with your little project? I remember you hinting at it, or us talking about it, and I honestly don't remember if it was while we were actually recording the very first time you were on with us. You had mentioned this thing you were working on, and you're kind of like, well, it's sort of Doom and Mork Borg and Roguelike. And at the time, I didn't know what Roguelike was. I still only have a concept of it, but I get it in a way, and it sounded really cool. So
yeah, the project that I was just having some initial ideas for way back then is now the tabletop role-playing game HellSlayers, which is built off of Mork Borg, which has a very generous third-party game license where you can essentially make products using their rules pretty much however you want, as long as you follow a few basic rules, including posting up a compatible with Mork Borg logo and a statement that you're not officially affiliated with them, and and you're not a fascist jerk. So yeah, when I was reading over Mork Borg back then, I just got inspired to make this game, and I've been working on it for one fashion or another, off and on, for several years now, and I've been working on getting the Kickstarter campaign together with Rem Alternus, who's been running the Kickstarter campaign for me for a little over a year now. And now the Kickstarter campaign is live, and we're a week in as of the time of recording this, and also fully funded. We got some stretch goals to go, but the initial goal has been met, so this book is going to be a thing now.
Congratulations on that. I'm sure that was a very, very pleasant feeling when that crossed that threshold.
Yeah, it felt really good. Overall, the weeks felt pretty good. My reaction to the progress of the Kickstarter campaign is definitely, it's way better than I feared. Maybe not quite as good as I hoped it would be, because we always hope for that first day hitting the goal then, and it's all stretch goals from there. So it's a little bit more like, is it going to happen or is it going to go? But no, it's been exciting to watch the numbers go up, and I've been doing a pretty good job of not obsessively refreshing the page. Tend to check it only a few times each day. But yeah, it was really nice to see it go over the goal, and really looking forward to hitting some of the stretch goals, because I put a lot of stuff in there that I just really wanted to do anyway, but thought it was a nice add-on to put in as a stretch goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm getting ahead of myself. As far as the kind of game it is, yeah, it's very Doom inspired. It's sort of sci-fi horror inspired, not just by Doom, but films like Aliens, other computer games of a sort of a survival horror genre in the sci-fi horror area, like System Shock, the Half-Life series. There's some board games that have been inspired, but I don't want to mention them because their producers are particularly known for being litigious. And I don't want to admit that I've also been inspired by them, even though it's there's no there's definitely no infringement going on here, but I just want to be careful about mentioning that.
Well, I mean, that's what, like, John Fogerty got sued by his record company for songs he wrote sounding like songs he wrote.
Let's just say that it's a certain British company that makes a game that involved Marines in space going through hulks,
Damn litigious,
fighting
come
monsters
on.
and stuff. So
No.
yeah, that was definitely one of my inspirations for HellSlayers as well. Though I think the biggest influence is definitely Doom, like classic Doom. My youngest son has gotten really into programming and writing music and modding, and he created essentially a WAD, which is like an episode file for Doom, for original Doom, including something like 13 full episodes with the original soundtrack. And that was something that he was kind of doing around the time I was coming up with these ideas. So he does some really neat, exciting stuff. So I had Doom on the brain as well at the time.
Well, you know who one of the people who worked on that was from the RPG scene, don't you?
Yes. Though I'm drawing a blank on his name right now.
Sandy Peterson.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, he does a lot of Call of Cthulhu stuff as well. But yeah, he was originally. I was kind of surprised looking into him fairly recently. That he was involved in the original Doom, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing the cross pollination game design. I don't know exactly how this connects, other than I know, like, Mike Pondsmith did some time working for Microsoft on, I believe it was the Ultima series, and Bruce Naismith, who's probably best known as being the lead dev for Skyrim, actually got his start in game design at TSR.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But so yeah, I mean, so we've got lots of big bloody shooty things in space, which I'm going to say, having played Mork Borg and Cyborg, I feel like that's right in that street.
Yeah, I like to think of it as a hack and slash of Mork Borg. It's a different genre of metal, but it's still definitely metal. It's more about going into combat and being a badass.
I think both me and Steve. Well, I know you're like a thrash metal kind of guy, right, Steve? I think that's what this is basically. Mork Borg is like death, like that Norwegian death metal. It feels very thrash. Like, yeah, I just get a lot of that fast speed metal out of this. Say so. And I honestly, I think this is awesome. I really do. I've looked and stared at this, and I've been so excited about it when I first heard about it way back when. And I'm so happy to see it in person now. Well, not in person, but see it actualized. I think you couldn't have picked a better system, honestly. I love that Mork Borg system, and I think it fits this amazingly well. I think it's going to be. I'm really excited, man. Honestly.
Awesome, thank you. It's been really fun to play. Everyone that I played it with and ran it for has walked away saying that they really had a great time. So that makes me feel pretty good about the design. It's using the Mork Borg rules, though I did a few things to kind of make it my own. It's also very sort of focused on the missions, which are sort of like sci-fi dungeon crawls. One of my design goals was to sort of approach doing dungeon crawls in a fun way that skips all the tedious parts that I don't like about dungeon crawls.
Well, that also ties in, like you were saying, with the Doom inspiration, where you're effectively clearing levels.
Yeah, the game is structured so that you go on missions. Each mission is made up of anywhere from 1 to 4 sections, depending on the mission. Each section is sort of like a level that has different rooms that you would go through. They might be arranged in different ways, the different sizes with different challenges in them. There's various hazards involved, or enemies you might face, loot you might need to or want to find, things you might need to repair in order to access their areas. Most sections will have a hidden area, so you need to go bumping up against some walls, or search for secret doors and access that if you want to. Sometimes, well, each section actually has an optional objective that you want to achieve in order to get these things called objective points, which sort of build into the roguelike mechanic, which we haven't really mentioned much yet, except for you mentioning it early on. And then you have a primary mission objective that you're trying to complete overall throughout those levels.
Okay. So why don't you talk about that roguelike mechanic? So are you, like, obviously in roguelikes, it's a lot of I redo it again, except it's going to be different this time. So how are you incorporating that into the RPG itself?
Yeah, so the roguelike aspect is actually inspired by more recent video games like, say, Hades, Dead Cells, Slay the Spire. I could go on and name more, but those are some of the ones I played a bunch of. One of the concepts is you're probably going to die. You're probably not going to make it through your first time. But when you do, you start again with some sort of advantage or bonus based on what you accomplished in your previous runs. So in HellSlayers, your characters are relatively fragile. You're sent into dangerous situations with quite under-equipped for them. So you definitely want to find some loot, but you're likely to not have what you need to really face all the enemies that you're going to face. So you're bound to end up. Someone's going to end up dying. And when you do, you make a new character, and based on however many objective points you've achieved so far. There's also things called boss points for fighting and defeating a boss, and a few other things sort of play into this. You get additional bonus choices with your next character. So your next character starts out a little bit more effective than an initial starting character.
So in a sense, I'm assuming that takes you, say, give or take, to approximately a level state with, say, any members of your party that didn't die.
It definitely gives you a boost or a leg up. It's meant to take the sting out of having your character get killed, and starting out with a new one. Character creation is really fast. Like your first character might take you 10 minutes. If you start dying left and right, it can take a minute or two to bring a new one in.
Oh, I like hearing that, especially in a roguelike game like this. You can't have character creation take too long in a game like this. It really can't.
Well, and I mean, even, the engine it's based off of is incredibly quick to create characters for.
Yeah, I don't quite have it down to the 10-minute science, so but yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, it's pretty quick and simple. You first pick an MOS, which is a class in HellSlayers, and you got essentially 4 different MOSs, 5 if we hit our first stretch goal. It's the grunt, the engineer, the medic, and the scout. And each different MOS has a certain a different chart you roll on a D6 to see what equipment you start out with. And that's different for each class or MOS. There's also a list of powers that are MOS powers that you start with one of those, and you roll randomly on a chart of D6, and there's those are different for each class. So the grunt will have things that help them hit more and do more damage. The scout will have things that make them move more quickly or be able to locate trouble or bypass barriers. The engineer will have sort of interesting tech support powers. The medic's going to have healing-related stuff. The psychic, well, we'll see.
Got to leave something up to the imagination.
Yeah, every initial HellSlayer starts with pistol, 20 bullets, pretty basic armor, ration pack, which helps them heal between sections, and really not much else. Whatever they get on their with one roll on their equipment chart and one roll on their power chart. Though if it's your second or third or more character, you may be able to get more rolls or add more bonuses to things. And then, like Mork Borg, you have 4 traits: strength, toughness, presence, and agility. And use those for different things. Your starting character will have a +1 in one of those. based on your MOS choice, and then you also have a terrible trait that starts at -1, and then you also get to add another +1 to any trait you want except for your terrible trait.
Okay.
Once you've done that, there's a couple of other things like picking a name or rolling to see which corporation has sponsored you. But other than that, you've got your hit points, which are based on 8 plus or minus your toughness. And you have 2 badass points, which are essentially resources for re-rolling and doing other cool stuff during the game. And then your character's good to go.
Well, that sounds cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it really does. And I kind of like how it so how do I want to say? I like how it kind of does have almost a classic video game feel to it, which I wouldn't say I like in all RPGs, but in this it feels right. You know, like I don't know how else to say it, right? Like I've grumbled many times that one of my complaints about 4th edition, the big ampersand game, was that it felt like they were trying to make a tabletop version of an MMO. Which, given the context of the time that was, I completely understand why they might try to do that. But in this, and knowing that, the classic Doom was part of the inspiration, it feels right. And I'm hoping, too, that you've kind of retained that, and this is just the feeling I've got from playing both Cyborg and Mork Borg. They're both games that just want you to go big, and if you succeed, great, and if you don't, it's going to be spectacular anyway.
I've described characters in Cyborg as fireworks. They're really awesome, and then they explode. And that's exactly what I want out of a Doom-esque like tabletop RPG. I absolutely want characters that are insane and ridiculous, and then all of a sudden dead, and that is amazing. Yeah, again, it's an understatement to say I'm excited for this. It really is. So you mentioned a stretch goal. What are you looking at to get to that stretch goal? So right now you're just over funding at $5,058.
Yep.
What's your first stretch goal?
First stretch goal is $6,000. So
okay,
I think I made it nice and easy to reach.
Yeah, you're not too far off to get that first stretch goal, which is, as you mentioned, that's going to be the unlocked character, the new character.
Yep, a new MOS, which is the Psychic or Psionic. I haven't decided which I'm going to call it, but either way, it's going to be an MOS. It's going to have like weird powers that probably can backfire in particularly spectacular ways.
I'll help you tip the scales a little bit. I'm a fan of the term psionic over psychic, but I get you. Yeah, that's awesome. So I think within your time frame, fingers crossed, we should be able to get there easily. But that's awesome. I'm excited to hear that. Any other notable stretch goals from there that you'd like to, really aiming for or hoping to hit? I mean, obviously all of them, but
I feel like I kind of wanted to front load a bunch of cool stuff that I really wanted to include in the game as early stretch goals. So the first 2 stretch goals are basically $1,000 apart. We got the $6,000 one, introduces the Psychic MOS. Then at $7,000 we have some new weapons that will be designed and added to the game. At $8,000 it will be a new rogue AI faction, which will essentially send drones and robots against you, but also probably introduce new technical challenges as the environment becomes hostile. And then to potentially deal with that at $9,000, there'll be advanced hacking mechanics added to the game. And the one I'm probably most excited about is at $10,000, we're going to create an original soundtrack, which I'll be collabing with my son on.
I was going to say, I know from following you on Facebook and such that you have a background in music.
Yeah.
So yeah, I saw that, and I was wondering if that was going to be largely your work or collaboration or.
Yep, I'm going to collaborate with my my youngest son, who has already made a lot of music in the genre, created for his Doom WAD. It's pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing and fantastic, because the Doom music is iconic in a lot of ways, and especially you saying about your son having an understanding of that game deeply and building a WAD out of it, and I'm sure he has a deep understanding of how that music is made and what the tone that you're going for and all that fun stuff. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think those are all the stretch goals that I think I can reasonably expect that we're going to hit. There are a couple more that I think are more, hey, if we get a bit more popular than I expect, then maybe we'll hit these other ones. At 15K, we'll add a new written adventure to the book, because the book already includes sort of a framework of generating adventures for you on the fly, so you can jump into the game with little to no prep. But as it is, there's no sort of like actually narratively written adventure, which I think that would be a neat thing to add as a stretch goal. But that's at the 15K level. And then at 20K, there's bot support on Discord by my friend Carlton, who's the creator of Exploding Dice, which is a really nice dice bot on Discord that does a lot more. It can do a lot of character tracking things. It has an initiative rolling and tracking feature that makes playing Shadowrun a lot faster and easier. And the bot support on Discord for HellSlayers will essentially generate missions, track enemies for you. If you want to use it to that degree, it can essentially track your character's hit points and resources, sort of all built into there. So it could be a really useful GM assistant and player assistant while you're playing the game, but also very useful if you just want to go GM-less and play with a group of people over Discord.
Cool, very cool.
But that's at 20K. I don't think we're going to hit that number, at least according to our progress. But I'm still hopeful. It would be really awesome.
Well, I hope you get there, because I just think it all sounds really cool. And
yeah, I'm with you there.
I just like, I remember playing Doom in college, which has been way too many years ago. In fact, I still actually remember 2 of the cheat codes for the game. Why, I have no idea. But I remember the codes for the unlimited ammo and weapons and the God mode.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, heavens, I mean, that was on Windows 3.1.1 machines.
Yeah, one of my earliest memories of multiplayer computer gaming was at my first year at college, essentially getting Doom 2 installed on a bunch of computers in a computer lab, which we totally weren't supposed to do, but, there were no real protections from us doing it. And playing multiplayer Doom 2, it was really cool. We were just doing essentially a free-for-all deathmatch, just running around fighting and killing each other. But the concept of playing a computer game with multiple people, each on a different computer at the same time, was really novel at the time.
This is the only thing even close. I'm assuming we're in roughly the same age bracket, based on some of the stuff you've said. I would say the only thing even close to that at that point would have been the text-based, like MUDs and stuff, which obviously are very different from Doom, which was obviously very graphic heavy. I mean, for the era anyway.
Yeah, I did a bit of that too back in the day.
So I'm going to add so based on, again, my experiences with Mork Borg, Cyborg, not saying that they're not capable of playing a longer form game, but given what those seem to do well, what you've said about this, is this more intended as kind of a, let's call it serial one-shot game? Or like, given the way you're structuring the missions, it almost sounds like it'd be a great game to run, say, at your local game store on Saturday night for whoever shows up. And if you have reoccurring characters, fine. If you don't, fine.
Yeah, I think it would work really well in both situations. There is an overall campaign structure, kind of inspired on and based on Mork Borg's Psalms and Apocalypse sort of system. There are Doomsday Clock events that are happening. So in the setting of HellSlayers, it's a not too distant future. The Earth is dying. There's sort of economic and ecological disasters, wars going on, just horrible pollution, and essentially the Earth is going to die, and everything on it. That's sort of a given. It's just a matter of when. The humanity's survival depends on the humans who have essentially extended themselves out beyond Earth into the solar system. No one's really done the whole FTL thing just yet, but that's essentially the situation HellSlayers are in. The sort of major power is the Lunar Corporate Alliance. There's sort of a really big moon base with lots of headquarters from the major corporations, and they're sort of doing their best to hold things together and profit at the same time, and try to essentially survive these disasters. But of course, there's hostile aliens showing up and causing problems. Experiments have resulted in opening rifts to a hell-like place where demons come through. There's hostile space fascists who have massive city ships. They go around and essentially blow things up and capture people and enslave them. So these are the foes that the LCA sends HellSlayers to go take on and defeat.
It just sounds cool. I know we keep saying that, but it does.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. I know I've said that like 4 times now, but it sounds so cool. It sounds so Doom. I think this would be a great dropout type of game, because you could just basically, from the way you're making everything sound structured, you could run a campaign where maybe each episode per se, you have a new group of players, or a new group of, or not even necessarily a new group of players. Maybe you just have somebody drop and that's okay. And it's just, I'm so excited.
Now, the way the Doomsday Clock stuff works is every time you start a mission, there's a chance that that you'll trigger a Doomsday event, and there's a D66 chart of different events that might happen. All of them involve something horrible happening somewhere, probably thousands or millions of people dying, big, massive disasters. And some of them will essentially inform you what your mission is going to be reacting to that. So it might tell you what faction you're going up against next. Others of them don't define that. But once you trigger the 7th Doomsday event, that's it. The Earth dies. It's over with. And all that's left of humanity is what's left out in the solar system. And essentially you go to an epilogue mission, which is extra difficult. If you succeed, you get a bonus on a final roll that's based on some other factors to see whether or not humanity survives based on your efforts, or whether essentially it will just die out and this is the last gasp. So there's this sort of final roll at the very end to see, like, is it the end, or is there some hope for survival? And your actions as HellSlayers have some influence on whether or not that happens. But so does the dice roll.
Well, I like it. I mean, I feel like that stays true to kind of that Mork Borg Doomsday thing, right? But it also is what you do can matter, but it might not, which is kind of this sort of weird thing, but I get it.
Yeah, I honestly, it's just I can't help but add some sort of hopeful element to even the darker games that I create. In this game, your characters are likely to get killed. There's lots of horrible things happening all over the place. But there is some hope for humanity's survival, and I like the idea of having some player agency in that.
Well, I think that's cool. And I think I know that the term I was looking for before is serial campaigns. Mm-hmm. Almost like a TV show where you can keep going, but like you said, there is kind of like this impending countdown, all that.
And even your characters that survive have a limited lifespan in the game, because once you survive 3 missions, your character is promoted, and you essentially they're too important to send on suicide missions, so they're sort of retired to more strategic roles. And
so you're doing the character. You're doing the Darkest Dungeon 2 thing of, you're too important. You go over here.
I haven't played that game enough to get to that point, but it's definitely that kind of vibe.
Yeah, if you can keep your character alive for long enough, they basically, all right, you get to have a kid, and your kid is or essentially a kid. Your protege is the one that takes over for you. You don't get to keep that same character forever. So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that exists in this game.
And essentially, based on how many promotions you manage to do during the campaign before the end, that's one of the major factors that affects that final dice roll.
Okay.
Because they're not just 3 missions; they have to be 3 successful missions. So it's a measure of some significant success.
Now, a question I'm going to ask, just because I've had a lot of people, Mork Borg, Cyborg, specifically the Stockholm Cartel products, right? They have a very distinctive style to them, which most people either love or hate. Are you going for that kind of avant-garde graphic design in this, or you kind of, because like the art you have up on the Kickstarter page feels kind of in the Mork Borgish vein, but I don't see the sometimes hard to read graphic elements that are common in the Stockholm Cartel games. And like I said, they're a love-hate thing. I think specifically in the case of Cyborg, it really adds to the game. I kind of like them, but I understand that for some people it can make it more difficult. Is that something you've embraced, are not using, somewhere in the middle?
So there's aspects of the sort of Mork Borg Cyborg layout style that I am utilizing, which has to do with essentially, a sparse presentation of material, trying to condense important things into a single page of information for that level of detail. It goes a little bit more texty, I think, than Mork Borg does, but still kind of goes for that sparse and art heavy look. But what I haven't gone with is sort of harsh color contrasts, things that are more difficult to read or wildly different fonts. I might lean into some more of that as I go forward with the final layout version, because the one that's sort of out there now, which something I haven't quite mentioned yet, is that very soon on Drive-Thru RPG, probably by the time this podcast gets released, the early access pre-release PDF of HellSlayers will be available as a pay what you want on Drive-Thru RPG. And if you're a Kickstarter backer, you can check your messages in the message that is the update from saying, hey, we hit the goal, has a Google Drive link to the same file, which you can get right away. If you're a backer, I expect you would not pay to download the file off of the Kickstarter page, but I had to put some sort of number in for the suggested price. So go ahead and ignore that if you're a backer, or just grab the Google Drive file. So, there is a PDF that's out there that has the game as it is in its current state, which is I've attempted to lay out as artistically as possible with my limited artistic skills, which are quite limited, using a bunch of stock art that I was able to find and utilize, because I didn't want to use AI-generated images as part of the layout. But overall, I think it looks pretty good and it works pretty nice. There's definitely still rough edges to smooth out and some things to add and finish up, hopefully from stretch goals as well. But yeah, overall, I think if you take a look at it, it should feel like a game that has grown out of Mork Borg, but it's definitely got its own style on several levels.
Mm-hmm.
One of which being the art style is definitely going to be different. Another being the sort of the hopeful element at the end of the world, maybe, or maybe it's a false hope to string you along. Maybe it's just cruel. We'll see how it plays out in your particular case.
But there's something right about that. It feels like somehow. I don't know why, but it feels like you were saying, be it kind of a cruel false hope or possibly legitimate, just feels right with this.
Feels right to me. So
well,
I appreciate
that's
that.
good considering your name's on the cover.
Yeah.
What kind of, just for anyone who like I've got the page open now, obviously anyone can go to it and look at it, but yeah, what kind of backer levels are you looking for? What are people going to have to invest to get in on the Kickstarter, or
So any support is welcome, of course, but the rewards start at $20, which gets you the PDF, the final PDF version. $40 gets you the PDF and the hardcover, which will be shipped from Drive-Thru RPG, and those are sort of the main ones. There's the extra ones above that have some just sort of fun add-on bonuses, like at $100 you get the PDF and the hardcover, but also you get a seat at the table, a virtual table of a game that I'm going to run for you and a number of other backers at the same level. At $250, you get to create a custom monster for the book with me, and that also includes the hardcover and the PDF. At $500, I will run a game for you and your gaming group, you and up to 3 of your friends. Also, you get the book. And at $1,000, which I think one of those has already been taken, you get to work with me to create a new threat faction for the game. And of course, you get the book and PDF.
Mm-hmm. I see you also have a retailer tier.
Oh, yeah, I included one retailer tier or, a pack of 5 for your gaming group. I think that one's $160, yeah. Yep, you get 5 copies of the hardcover and 5 copies of the PDF. And so you can probably make as many copies of the PDF as you want at that point, but, you get 5 download codes.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what else do you have that you'd like to tell us about with this? Because I like what you've said, I'm on board 100% here, but I don't know what other goodies you have hidden in there or that you want to to hint at.
So yeah, just dropping a few hints. A lot of the character options and character MOS powers or things you can get include things like cybernetics, different drones you can use to help you out. You can also get your hands on bigger guns, better armor. We've got things like power armor that you can acquire in the game, or a combat chainsaw. Those are sort of already there, so lots of fun stuff there. The enemy factions you'll be going up against, there's zombified humans, aliens, which some of them have psychic powers of their own, or psionic, depending on what we end up calling it. There's the space fascists that essentially have human shields they send after you. If you take out the bad guys first, then those people will surrender and you'll get to rescue them. And of course, the demons, which are essentially very much inspired by the Doom demons. We've got the Bull demon, which is essentially the Pinky, the demon warrior, of course, which has a rocket launcher, or one of them does. That might be the boss demon, now that I think of it. But yeah, lots of different enemies to face. Each have their own different sort of encounter charts to roll. So a lot of cool stuff. Game mechanics wise, it's very much Mork Borg with a few additions. You get 2 actions per turn that you can use to either move or attack or do something else. There's sort of zone-based systems for range and movement to keep things really quick and easy. Short range is within your zone. It's for melee attacks and short range ranged attacks. 1 zone away would be 1 move action to get to, or 1 zone away would be medium range for you. You would need ranged weapons to make most attacks. So there's a little bit more tactical movement stuff built into the game than standard Mork Borg. But the other big mechanic that I've sort of added in, I'm pretty proud of, which is unique to this game, is a painful success mechanic. And what this does is allows you to succeed anyway on a failed roll by paying the price. An easy example of that is if you're attacking with a pistol and you roll and you miss, you can take a painful success and expend an additional D4 bullets to hit anyway. But the idea of it kind of fits the video game theme, where I don't know if you played like a lot of those, like especially the what's the term, the survival horror where ammo is scarce and you have to kind of decide, like, do I just take a shot and hope for the best, or do I really sort of squeeze off a few extra rounds to make sure I kill the thing so I don't get hurt?
Awesome.
So that's one example, but almost every roll that you make in HellSlayers has an option for painful success.
I like that. I really do.
I agree. I like causing some pain to my players to make things happen the way they want them to happen.
And it also feels better. Nobody likes when your dice rollers, I rolled a hit, you miss, turns over.
Right.
That sucks. But if you have some agency in that, and like, well, I could spend the extra bullets, even if you choose not to and take the miss, there's still more of your player agency involved in that interaction in the story.
Exactly. You still had the thought in your head cross of, I could if I really needed it to. And that opens it up in spots where they actually really need it to. It's that's awesome. I dig it. I mean,
yeah, I feel especially good about the painful success mechanic because, as far as I know, it's unique. I haven't seen anything quite exactly like it in any other role-playing game. It's definitely partially inspired by the partial success or the yes but kind of mechanics of like Forged in the Dark or Apocalypse World, or like a Fate where you can spend Fate points to upgrade a success level, but it's not quite the same thing.
Yeah, I can't quite think of anything that's got that same kind of vibe.
I was going to say, kind of like the fail forward thing is becoming fairly prevalent, but the succeed at a cost, like I can't off the top of my head, like I know there are games that have you can chance things on a reroll.
Yeah, I mean, given the possibilities of what might be out there, it's entirely possible that the mechanic does exist somewhere else. But as far as my experience goes, I made up a new thing, and that feels pretty cool.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts here before we move into the next segment? And then also anything you would like to promote, Twitter or anywhere aside from the Kickstarter that you would like to be followed or seen at?
Well, there's the Kickstarter, kickstarter.com/projects/fragging unicorns/HellSlayers, or just Google HellSlayers Kickstarter. That'll get you there. Or you can go to fraggingunicorns.com, and there's a link from there as well.
There will also be a link down in the description below that people can follow straight to it.
There's a waiting period, I guess, when you post, at least someone at my tier of creator publishes a new document on DriveThruRPG for the general public. So I'm waiting for that to process before I can fully release the HellSlayers Early Access PDF to the world. But I think it'll be out by the time this episode drops. So if I can, I'll try to remember to send you that link as soon as I have it. Or feel free to reach out and remind me.
Both of us try to remember, and hopefully one of us will.
Yeah. You'll get a message 6 months later. Oh, shit. That thing came out, didn't it?
Well, I mean, even honestly, even if you get it, in the episode, I can go back in and edit the show notes. It's not
yeah,
not a hard
I'm just
thing
joking.
to do.
It's a product of ADHD.
But yeah, otherwise to promote fraggingunicorns.com, we've got some cool games up there already. Misspent Youth Fall in Love Not Online, another one of my babies. Created that with a number of other people. It was actually sort of my first main RPG that I kickstarted. Well, there's also another one on my itch.io page, which is a little bit more obscure, called Funny Freakout. That one I did as part of a zine quest. That was my first dipping my toes into game design with a Kickstarter behind it, and that funded well. It was very, very low stakes. But yeah, if you want to check that out, there's community copies available. That's sort of a fun party game style RPG, very loosely inspired by Forged in the Dark mechanics wise, where you play as a crew of people trying to pull off a horror comedy prank show, a la Scare Tactics or some other similar show, and sort of flips the player and GM dynamic, because the players are the ones that are pulling off the prank, and the GM is essentially role playing as the mark and keeping score. So setting the stage and controlling the pace of things is pretty much all in the hands of the players, and your goal is to make things weird or fun enough before the mark becomes too suspicious, or without making them feel too terrified or otherwise give them bad feelings, because you want them to ultimately have a good time in the end and make it a fun show. But that's a pretty fun game, and you can get that for free as a community copy from my itch.io page, or I think I forget what the price is. It's like $5 or $10.
Okay, what's the name of that one again?
Funny Freakout.
Okay.
If I my speech sounds a little weird, it's I had an incident at Gen Con where I was out with friends, and something happened where my blood pressure dropped severely, and then I passed out while walking, and then hit the sidewalk with my face.
Oh, that was very rude of the sidewalk.
Yeah, it was. It was quite rude. I'm okay as far as I know. All the initial major tests haven't shown up anything unpleasant or dangerous. But yeah, I'm still waiting to get the dental care I need to have my mouth back to normal. Teeth were broken. My nose was broken. There are other unpleasant things like bruised ribs and stitches.
Mm-hmm.
Not fun. Don't recommend.
No, does not
No,
sound
those are not fun episodes. I have a family member that had a similar episode a while ago, and yeah, it never did find any sort of actual cause, but caused considerable things to deal with for a long time.
Yeah, well, I'm mostly recovered from that, but
Well, that's
yeah,
good.
getting in to see the dentist is much longer wait times than the other than getting into the doctor.
Yeah, that can happen. All right, so anything else?
No, that's all. Just want to say thanks again for having me on. I definitely appreciate it. I appreciate the assistance boosting the signal for HellSlayers because I think it's a fun game, and I would love to see some of those stretch goals get hit and more people check it out and play it.
I know we've got a local kind of community here that is specifically very into retro video games and tabletop games. So this may tickle some fancies in that front.
If you're curious about the game, feel free to go to Drive-Thru RPG and grab a pay what you want copy. So that means you can grab it for free if you want, and you'll be able to check it out and play the game in its current state. And also knowing that it's going to be better when the final release comes out by June of next year.
Okay.
awesome.
Yes.
Well, with all that being said, let's go ahead and move into Game of the Week.
Woohoo! Game of the week.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
All right. So you have played this game before, Cliff, but would you like one of us to go first to kind of reacquaint you with how we play by the rules that aren't there?
Sure, why not? I've been talking a lot. I will yield the floor to someone else.
All right, Steve, you or me?
It could be either of us. I have one here ready to go.
Okay.
So I have a game called White Dog Whiskey, and I will throw up a link in the guest green room. Just bear with me here.
All right. I'm intrigued by the title at least.
It is a little pay what you want 12-page RPG, just released on the 20th, so about a week ago at this point. It's an introspective role-playing game about wandering community and folklore set in North America between 1860 and 1920. It blends the human with the odd, including extrasensory perceptions and folk tales as a core part of the game. So, yeah, it's a game set in a particular area of the country that is fascinating and just really, really cool and a really interesting time period. You know, I'm a huge history nerd, and this is like perked my ears immediately.
Yeah, and it looks like this is kind of like almost like a preview edition based on what I'm reading of a bigger game that is still in the works.
Yeah, it is. Or at least it feels that way. But I want to get I mean I have it. I got it. But I got to have time to read it. But this looks really cool. I'm a sucker for that American folklore stuff, and this hit me right in the right spots.
Cool. Yeah, it does look really like there's a lot there to tap into, you know, in that era.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how they handled some things. Is the other thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued.
But that is White Dog Whiskey by the Fruit Basket Press or CJR McGuire.
Cool. Oh yeah, that just got added like over the weekend. So
yeah on the 20th.
Very new.
Yep.
All right. Well, would you like me to go or would you like to, sir?
Sure, I can go next.
Okay.
So yeah, a game that I just recently got a chance to start playing. Had my eye on for quite a long time. Picked up the book toward the beginning of this year. Is Scum and Villainy. It's by Evil Hat Games, and it's a Forged in the Dark RPG where you're a crew of characters in a sci-fi setting where you got a spaceship, and you're depending on the ship that you choose, you're either smugglers or bounty hunters or rebels against the hegemony. And either way, you are out on the outskirts of the sort of known galactic civilization, and trying to make it by as a hard scrabble crew of ne'er-do-wells, a la Star Wars, Firefly, any number of other shows or series of the genre. And it's a lot of fun. I started playing it with some friends after a friend of mine, Elizabeth, mentioned at Origins that she GMs a lot of Forge in the Dark games, but really doesn't get to play them very often. So I just sort of took that opportunity to say, well, let's do this then. Got a group of players together, and we're in the process of playing and recording those games. And those will be released as a podcast. I forget the name of the podcast. It's by Rem Alternus, the Alternia Archives, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, I
that
mean,
might
if you
be.
look it up or whatever, shoot it to me. I can put it in the show notes.
But yeah, mainly we're just doing it for fun. But yeah, we're recording it as a podcast just because why not?
Well, right. Exactly. I mean, especially if you're already playing online, like, why not? You know, as we've had this discussion, you know, like, you can always do nothing with the recording. If you don't record it, you can't ever do anything with the recording.
That is true.
But yeah, I've been curious about that one for a while. I have a couple Forged in the Dark titles, but that is not among the ones that I currently own.
Yeah, I really love the Forged in the Dark system. I just personally don't enjoy the setting of Blades in the Dark as much. It's a great setting. It just it's not a flavor that I just personally enjoy terribly much. But like the whole crew with a spaceship trying to go do jobs on the fringes of galactic civilization, that's my jam.
Yeah, I've often heard that game sold as a certain very common property that no longer has mouse ears, or at least that version of it doesn't. But anyway.
So yeah, it's definitely partially inspired by Star Wars, but
well, I mean, even just the title. But,
yeah, I mean that's like a Star Wars reference right there.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's nothing in it that's copyright infringement or using Star Wars IP.
Let's face it, the core of the Star Wars stories are nothing earth-shattering or anything. It's just been very endearingly executed.
Yeah, I could agree with that. It's none of them are terribly complex. I definitely remember the whole like "No, I am your father" line being a big bomb drop moment for me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if younger people growing up with so much of that around them, the story already sort of in the public knowledge as much, really bump into that sort of as a big realization.
Yeah, that is something I wonder about with certain things, right? Is you know, what was that like when you didn't know what was coming?
But yeah, Scum and Villainy sort of catches that sort of a rogue crew vibe, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's definitely one of my favorite genres, and it's a well designed game.
Well, that's very cool. All right. Well, if you're done with yours, I have something I've found that seems interesting, and that's a game called Citizen Evil, which I'll throw a link up because I can. And this is another, you know, little kind of, it's a 14-page game, $6.50, based on the Trophy game engine, which I'm not personally familiar with, although I've heard of it a number of places. Actually, survival horror is kind of its theme. D6 based system. Basically, you play as a special police unit that goes to deal with essentially issues caused by a zombie apocalypse.
Seems very Resident Evil inspired.
Yeah, Citizen Evil, Resident Evil. I can see that.
The Umbrella Corporation like logo up there. Yeah, it's not a subtle reference.
Yeah, well, see,
and I'm there for it.
I've never actually played those games. I've seen them some, but I never really got into them.
There's a lot of stuff I really enjoy about them, but I haven't really played a lot of the super recent ones, but like some of the earlier ones, and I think up through 4, I played a fair amount of. They had a really neat one that I played on. I think it was PS2 at the time, where it was like a cooperative thing, multiplayer thing, which had a sort of procedurally generated things puzzles you'd have to solve with each location, different characters to pick. It was really cool. But I digress.
Oh no! That's exactly how this whole thing works, right? We digress and go off to where these things make us think. But yeah, I mean, for $6.50 for something light, fun. Again, I think this kind of feels like it could play in a similar manner to how you've set up HellSlayers, right? To be kind of episodic, okay, we can play this with some people here and some not or whatever. So, it comes with, looks like it comes with a fillable character sheet. It says printer friendly version as well, which is always nice. And you need some 6-sided dice, which if you're listening to this podcast and you don't have any 6-sided dice, I'm rather surprised.
Or you can emulate them easily enough.
Well, yes.
It's your electronic method of choice.
Yes. Oh, geez. And this was added yesterday.
Oh, wow. That's
You
really
pulled a
neat.
me. I'm good for that. I'm good for finding the games. I always do that on drive-thru because, well, it's hard to narrow everything down. So I'll go to drive-thru, I'll go to core rulebook, and then just sort by newest to oldest. And I'll go, that's in my interest, and it's brand new.
There you go. I never thought about doing it that way. I just start clicking on things that look interesting and then go down to the people who bought this also and go down a couple trails of that. And sometimes you find some really neat stuff that way.
Agreed. But yeah, I like to just, but
I'm curious with how deep you can get with this with just 14 pages.
That I can't really tell you. It looks like a preview video, so there might be some more in there.
Yeah, my curiosity's piqued. I'm going to check it out.
Well, cool. All righty. Well, I, for one, would just like to say thank you for coming back. And we welcome you to the Fraternal Order of Steve.
But thank you. I accept.
And
I will add Steve to my names.
Oh, but yeah, thanks for taking the time to come talk to us, and thank you for making a game that sounds this damn cool, frankly.
Absolutely.
Oh, I was just going to say thanks so much for having me on. It was a lot of fun, and thanks for helping me promote my game.
Anytime.
Mm-hmm.
As always, links to everything that was mentioned are in the show notes. Facebook, Discord, Patreon. If you're listening to this, give us a follow on Patreon if you like. At the bare minimum, give us a review on Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you're listening to us and can give us a review would be much appreciated. Helps with the algorithm, helps get us pushed out to more people. As always, we want to remind everyone to be kind to one another and get out there and play some RPGs.
Yep. Take care, y'all.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and RPGs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast. On Discord at Me and Steve RPGs. And as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.